Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to take you through the steps that are required to get started with 247connect. I'll take you through the process of creating the account and then what you need to do once the account has been created. So the first thing you need to do is come to the 247connect.cloud website, and from here in the top right hand corner you'll see we have two options, sign up and log in. So if you have access to an existing 247connect account already, you can log in from here. However, for the video today I'm going to take you through the process of creating a brand new account, so I'm going to go ahead and click sign up here. On this page, you'll see we're greeted with two options: register with Microsoft, which will enable single sign-on against your Microsoft tenant, or create an account using a local email address and password. What I'm going to do first of all though is show you through the Microsoft option. So I'm going to click register with Microsoft here. And what that will do is redirect us to a Microsoft sign-in page where we need to log into our Microsoft account, which I'm going to go ahead and do now. So once you're authenticated with Microsoft, you'll see we're shown this page here, which shows us which permissions 247connect requires access to on your tenant. So you can expand these to review this, and then we have the option to accept these, or if you're doing this as a global administrator, as I am, you can click consent on behalf of the organization, click accept, which will then create the application in Entra and redirect you back to the create an account form, which just requires some final details before you can go proceed to create the account. For the purpose of the video today, however, I'm not going to create my account using Microsoft, so I'm going to close this tab, click on sign up again, and this time I'm going to choose the option to create a local account using my email address and password instead. On this form here, we will need to enter in some details about our organization. So I'm going to enter in the organization name first of all, which I'm going to call 247connect demo. Then it asks us to choose the country. So in my case, I'm going to leave this as United Kingdom and specify the postcode. And then we have a drop-down menu to choose a data region. So what this is allowing you to do is choose where the data that 247connect collects is stored. So in my case, I'm going to choose UK South here. However, you can see that there are other regions available to choose from. If I scroll down, we then need to enter in our personal details, which I'm going to go ahead and do now. So once you've filled in your personal details, there's one more option at the bottom which will allow you to choose whether or not you want to be kept informed about product offers and updates. So in my case, I'm going to tick that. And then once you're happy with all the details you've entered in, you can then click register to go ahead and create the account. So that's created the account, and what it's done is sent me a verification email, which I just need to click on the link to verify my email address. Once you've gone through the email to verify your email address, it will redirect you back to the 247connect login page. However, as my mail client is open in a different browser session, what I'm going to do here is close the tab, click login, and log into my account from here instead. So from here, you just need to enter in your email address and password, which I'll go ahead and do now. And then once you've logged in, it will then take you to the 247connect portal. So the first thing you'll see here on the dashboard is that we have our managed agent licenses and we have our on-demand operator licenses. So these are two different types of connections that can be performed via 247connect. So managed agent licenses will be assigned to the devices where you install the agent software and where you want to provide unattended remote support. Then the on-demand operator licenses would be assigned to the operators within your IT team, and that will allow them to perform on-demand ad hoc support sessions. As you can see, one of these on-demand operator licenses has already been assigned. So as I was a user who registered for this account, I am classified as the global administrator, and by default I get assigned one of these on-demand operator licenses. The first part I'm going to focus on today is showing you how to set up the managed agents. So what we need to do is, from our accounts section in the top left hand corner here, we need to click into installers, and this will then take us to the page where we can download the managed agent installers. So as you can see here, we give you the executable file and the MSI file. So this is what you would need to install on the devices where you want to provide unattended remote support to. As you can see here, we do have the account ID as well. So it's worth noting that when you download the installers, they are pre-configured for your 247connect account. So if you was to go ahead and run that installer on an agent device, it will know to automatically point it to your 247connect account. And as you can see, we support either manual installations or also bulk deployments via tools such as Intune, Group Policy, SCCM, etc. Whilst I'm in here, I'll also mention that we do have the control installers tab. So this is where you can download the control component. So this is what you would need to install on the operator's devices who are going to be performing the remote support. And again, for this, we give you an executable file and an MSI file, and this can be either installed manually or in bulk via third-party deployment tools. To show you through the process of installing and registering an agent, what I've done is I've preloaded the agent installer file onto a virtual machine here, which you can see we have our installed on our desktop. So if I go ahead and double click this, I will show you through the process of the install wizard. So it's a nice and simple wizard. We just need to click next on this page here, click install, and then wait for the installer to finish. So once the install is finished, we just need to click finish here to close the wizard, and that is the agent then installed and running on that device. So what we now need to do is go back to the 247connect portal, and on the left hand side here you'll see we have our managed agent section, and from here if I click into unassigned, you'll see we now have our virtual machine in here available and ready to assign. So when you install the agent on your devices, this is where they will land by default, and then from here what we need to do is we need to assign them to a device group which will license them and make them available to be connected to. So to assign our devices, what we need to do is look at our device groups. Now we do create you a device group by default when you register for your account, and that will be called your organization name. So as you can see here, I have a device group called 247connect demo. So we could assign a device to that group if we wanted to. However, what I want to do instead is create a new group. So to do this, I can either click the three dots next to the existing group and do create, or at the top of the screen here, I can do new device group and create the group from here instead. So in my case, I'm going to call this group demo. And if you want to, you do have the option to specify different colors and also description if you want to from here as well. But in my case, I'm going to leave that as it is and click save. So that will create the device group underneath our existing group. And if you do click into the groups, it will show you which devices are currently in those groups if you do have any already. But to assign our demo device, I'm going to go back to unassigned. And then from this list here, I'm going to click on the actions column, this icon here to move a device. And what I'm then going to do is move this device to the demo device group I've just created. Click move. And what that will then do is assign that device to our demo group, as you can see here. And if I click into my device now, I'm now good to go ahead and connect to my machine. So from here we have got our device details tab, which shows us a hardware overview of the machine, as well as a device history tab at the top, which shows you a history of any connections or any changes that have been made to the device. Our four main features can be accessed in the top right hand corner of this page. So view will open up a remote control session to see the screen of the device, but then we have the option to file transfer to send and retrieve files from the device, and then we can chat and message with the user. File transfer, chat and message can be used without viewing the screen of the device. So to start a view session, I'm going to click view. And as this is the first time I'm connecting to a machine, the browser is telling me it wants to launch an application. So this application is the control component, which I mentioned earlier. So if you haven't already, go to the installers page, download the control installer and make sure to install this on your machine. However, in my case, I have this downloaded already. So I can just click open, which will start the session. But before I do so, I'll just mention that there is a tick box here. So if you tick this, this will prevent this prompt from appearing each time you want to make a connection. So I'm going to click open here. And that will then launch the control application and perform a connection to my device, as you can see here. So file transfer, chat and message are also available in the view window, but as you can see there's a few additional features available in here as well. So the first one is Control-Alt-Delete. Then we have the option to blank. So this is useful if you want to blank the end user's screen so they can't see what you're doing. And then you have clipboard to be able to send and retrieve clipboard contents from a device, as well as being able to take a screenshot as well. And you do also have some scaling options up here, as well as a full screen option, which will allow you to view the agent in a full screen session. And you can just toggle that using this toolbar there. Once you're finished with your session, you can close the window here, and that will then disconnect from the agent, and you're back in the 247connect portal. So that's how you can install and connect to your managed agents. However, before I move over to showing you the on-demand section of the product, I will just mention that in these device groups we've been creating, if you click into them, first of all, you can connect to the devices from this actions column here, from this interface. However, What I wanted to show you is at the top, you do also have device group settings, and this can be accessed from the three dots next to the specific group as well. So in here, this just allows you to enable or disable certain features for the devices that have been assigned to that group. For now though, I'm going to move over to On Demand and show you how we can use this from an on-demand point of view. So the first thing you need to do is come to this on-demand section here. Now on this page, this will show you a list of any active sessions you've got taking place or any previous invitations you've sent out. However, to start a new session, we have Create from the left-hand menu or from the top as well. So if I go ahead and click Create, that will generate my session code, and as you can see at the top of the screen we have a couple of fields we can edit. So the first one is the session name. Now this gets pre-populated with the session code as you can see here, but I can rename that if I want to, and I also have the option to attach a note to the session as well. Now underneath here we have our three options for starting the session. So the first one, and probably most commonly used, is a link. So you can copy the link to the clipboard and then send that to your end user where they can paste that into their browser to start the session. The second option is the session code. So if the end user has previously ran 247connect to perform an on-demand session, they can rerun the agent and then just enter the code in which you share with them. Alternatively, you do have an email option as well. So you can pop their email address into this field here, click send, and that will then send them instructions on how to start the session. So what I'm going to do here is just click create to start the session. That will then generate the session, and you can see in this on-demand page now, the session is in here and it's showing as invited because we're waiting for the end user to enter the code in. To simulate how this looks from the end user side of things, I have a different virtual machine here which I'm just going to put across. So if I go ahead and launch my web browser and just paste in the link that I've just copied, that will then take me to the on-demand startup screen. So on this page here, I get a message telling me that the operator is waiting for me to start the session. I have the session code, which I'm just going to copy to my clipboard here as well. And then I get a warning just telling me to ensure that I trust the person that's asking me to start the session. If I then scroll down slightly, I get some instructions on what I need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click download to download the agent. That will then put that in my downloads folder, where if I double click, that will then launch the agent. Now it is worth mentioning that at this stage that the on-demand agent is a one-time run only. So the agent runs, the session is performed, and then once the session's finished and the session's been ended, no installation files are left on the end user's device. So in this page here, I'm just going to paste in the code I've just copied. That then tells me that the session code is valid, and I can click start to go ahead and launch the session. After clicking start, you'll see the 247connect logo appears in the bottom right hand corner, and you'll see it tells me it's registering. So after a second or two, that will change to registered, and it now tells me that it's waiting for the operator. So if I go back to the 247connect portal and just refresh this page, you'll see now that this session has changed from invited to telling me it's available and ready to go. So on this screen, underneath the actions column, you'll see I have access to my features. So view, file transfer, chat and message. The same features as we had available for the managed agents. And from here, there is also an end session option as well, which we can use to kill the session at any time. So if I wanted to view the screen of this machine, I'd go into here and click view. And again, like with the managed agents, the browser will open a prompt telling me that it wants to open an application. And again, this is the same control application which you need to make sure you have installed on your machine as the operator. So if I click open here, that will go ahead and launch the control application and try to connect to the device. Now, as this is a managed agent, you'll see at the bottom, I get told that it's waiting for the agent to approve the connection. So if I just move this slightly out of the way and then go back to my virtual machine, in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see we now have a user acknowledgement prompt. So it's telling me that the operator wants to connect to my computer, and if I click approve, this is what they can do. So they can view the screen, send and retrieve files, and chat and message. Now it's worth mentioning that as the operator that's connecting, if the operator that was connecting didn't have access to, for example, file transfer, this prompt would update and remove the file transfer prompt and just show the permissions which the operator has got access to. However, if I click approve here, that will allow the connection, And as you can see now, if I just minimize my virtual machine, I now have a view window open to that on-demand agent, and from here I have access to the machine. Now within the view session, the majority of the features are the same as what we have access to in the managed agent. So Control-Alt-Delete, clipboard, screenshot, file transfer, chat and message. However, there is a new feature here which is called Elevate. So this will just allow you to elevate the session so you can access admin areas on the device. And in here, you can either elevate it as yourself. So if you have an admin account on the machine you're connecting to, you can enter in the credentials for that account to elevate it, or you can prompt the end user to elevate it by entering in their own admin credentials as well. The only other difference for on-demand sessions is that on this page, the blank screen feature is not available. So the blank screen is only available for managed agent connections. So once I've finished performing my session, I'm going to close the view window, and that will then take me back to an overview of that device. So from this page, you'll still see I have access to my features in the top right hand corner here, so I can relaunch those at any time. And if I go back to on demand, I can still access the agent from there. And similarly, I can click back into the agent to get back to that page where I just was. So in terms of ending the agent, I can either click end session here on my side as the operator, or if I go back to the end user, at any moment in time, they can also click end session from their side, which I'll go ahead and do now. So it will ask them, are they sure they want to end the session? So I will click end. So that will just remove the on-demand agent and close off the session. So that's now killed off. And if I go back to the on-demand portal and just refresh the page and go back to on-demand, you'll see that that session has now disappeared and I no longer have access to that on-demand agent. So that's how you can use 247 Connect to perform on-demand sessions. Now you may have noticed everything I've been doing so far has been done by myself, the global administrator. However, there will often be occasions where you might want to invite colleagues to the system to give them access to perform remote control sessions as well. So from the account menu, if we go into users, this is where, first of all, we can see which users are currently active on the account. So in my case, I just have myself here as I'm the person who registered for the account, so I'm the global administrator. However, at the top of this page, you'll see we do have an invite user option. So this is where we can go into to add additional users to the account. So when I click into invite a user, it's really easy. All I need to do is just enter in the email address of the user I want to add. And then underneath here, you can see we have an authentication method. So just like when we created the account at the start, here we can choose whether this user is going to log on using their email address and password, or whether we want them to authenticate with Microsoft. In my case, again, I'm going to choose local here, click send. Now what that will do is send an email invitation to the user, which they need to click on the link to verify themselves, and then once verified, this status here will change from invited to active. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. So once that's been done, we can come back to the 247 Connect portal, hit refresh at the top, and we'll now see our new user is in here and active on the account. So as this is a new user account, underneath the user type column, we can see our new user currently has no permissions or access assigned. And this is where 247 Connect works on a zero trust basis. So all new accounts you create will not be assigned any permissions by default. So that's where we need to start looking at assigning permissions to the user. Before we do that, however, I just want to show you how you can assign an on-demand operator license to this user. So if this new user was someone who you wanted to be able to perform on-demand ad hoc support sessions, you would first need to assign the user an on-demand operator license. So to do this, underneath the actions column, we can click edit next to the user. And within here, we have the option at the bottom to assign an on-demand operator license. So we can just change that from unassigned to assigned. And then once we've done that, we can click save, and that will assign the license to that user. And when the page refreshes, you'll now see our new user has an on-demand operator license assigned to it when we hover over this page. So that's how you can assign the license, but now we need to go to roles. And in here, we can start talking about how we can assign and delegate the required permissions to these users. So in here, you can see we give you 3 predefined roles out of the box. A global administrator role, which is built in, and this is assigned to the first user that creates the account, and this cannot be edited. And then we have an on-demand operator role, which gives you the required permissions to perform on-demand support sessions. So in the case of our new user, even though we've already assigned the on-demand operator license to them, we would still need to delegate and assign them the required permissions to perform on-demand support sessions. And then we have our operator role. So this contains the required permissions to connect to managed devices. So you can edit these 2 roles if you want to, or at the top here, we can click add role. And in here, we can then go ahead and create our own custom role. In this page, the first thing we need to do is assign a title to the role. So I'm going to call this demo. And we can also assign a description if we want to as well. Now underneath here, we have our 2 different types of permissions. So we have account and operator permissions. So these are where you can assign your account level permissions, such as being able to manage billing details or invite new users. And if I scroll down, we have our manage device permissions. So these are where you can delegate what permissions these users will have access to when connecting to managed devices. For the account level permissions, you will see they have a little icon next to them to confirm it's an account permission. So that means that permission can only be assigned on account level and can't be delegated to specific device groups, which I'll explain shortly. On-demand permissions, this is where you can choose what permissions this role will have access to when connecting to on-demand devices. So in the case of our new user again, we might assign them the on-demand permission role. However, when they're connecting to on-demand devices, we only want them to be able to view the screens and take control. We don't want to allow the user to file transfer, for example. So you can fine-tune the permissions from here. Again, with zero trust in mind, all permissions by default are set to disabled, so you have to come into here and enable the permissions you want to enable for this role. So once you've chosen the permissions, you can then click save, and that will then create the role in your list here. So now we've created the role, the next thing we need to talk about is the role assignment, and this is where we can choose where these permissions are assigned to within your organization. So if we click into role assignment, a new wizard opens up. So the first step is to select your role from the list. So you can either search for them if you have a lot of roles, or you can just tick from the list that's shown on screen. So I'm going to tick my on-demand operator role here. So I want to assign these permissions to my new user that I've just created. So I'm going to choose on-demand operator. It is worth noting, however, you can assign multiple roles to the user in one go if you want to, rather than having to do one by one. But for now, I'm just going to do one. Click next. And if I'm here again, we can either search for our user from the list, or if you can see them already, just tick them from the bottom. And now on this page here, this is where you're choosing where you want these permissions to be applied. So in this example, on-demand permissions can only be assigned on the account level, and this is where we will again see this account icon here. So when we were creating our roles, you would have seen this icon against some of the permissions. So certain permissions can only be applied on the account level, and if we were to tick demo device group here, for example, it would ignore any permissions within the selected roles which have this icon next to it and only apply the other permissions which do not. In this case, however, I want this user to be able to perform on-demand sessions, and that's an account level setting. So I'm going to choose account there, click create, and our user now has access to the on-demand permissions. What is worth noting as well is now I've assigned that permission against the on-demand operator role here, I can click on this blue icon which says show assignments, and here it will show you which users have access to that role. So now we can see that our new user has been assigned the on-demand operator role. And then we can go back to roles to see our list of roles again from here. So that's the on-demand permissions assigned to our user. However, we might also want to allow this user to connect to managed devices. And with this, we can choose to either allow them to connect to all the managed devices within our organization, or we can limit them to only being able to connect to devices in specific device groups. So to do that, we go back to role assignment. We choose our role. So this time we're going to choose the operator role, which contains the permissions for managed devices. Choose our user again. And on this page, we can choose which devices we want this user to be able to access. So we can either assign this on the account level, so they can access all managed devices in the entire organization, or if we just choose demo, for example, this user would then only be able to see the devices in the demo device group. If we had a sales, a marketing, or a support device group, they wouldn't be able to see devices in those groups. So I'll tick demo here, then click create. That will take us back to the role assignment page, and then from here I can click on the operator role and this time click show assignments, and now it shows us that our new user has been assigned this operator role against the demo device group. So that concludes the video for today. Hopefully that's been helpful with getting you started with 247 Connect. However, if you do have any problems or any questions along the way, our support team are always on hand and ready to help. On the dashboard of your 247 Connect portal, there is an information hub where if you click into it, you will see support and documentation and also links to contact our technical support. Thank you for watching and bye for now.